Macro Detectors is the fastest growing manufacturer in the industry, and for good reason. Many detectorists, including Mike Hare, call us the most innovative, but we are so much more than that. We listen to and care about our customers. We also offer a wide range of detectors to fit all of your needs. Come check out all of our products today at www.noctadetectors.com. Detectors for everyone, everywhere, a lifetime.
Welcome to the UK's first metal detection podcast. It's All Metal Mode UK with your host from across the pond, Mr. Michael Hare.
Hello everybody, this is Mike Hare and you're listening to the All Metal Mode UK podcast. Unfortunately tonight, Mr. Sadler will not be joining us. He had a procedure done today. From what I understand, he's pretty loopy and just not able to make it tonight. But tonight's Mike Smith, we're going to be talking about the Celtic Chariot. I am excited for this. I have been waiting for this big time. Such exciting news and can't wait to hear the updates and all that. Don't forget, check out archmdmag.com. On Facebook, you can follow us at All Metal Mode Podcast UK, Metal Detecting UK Dirt Fishing, Archaeology and Metal Detecting Magazine, and Archaeology and Metal Detecting Group. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and other affiliates as well. So many ways to listen, download, listen on your commute, all that. Please join in the chat and ask questions. If once you start the show, you'll have a bar come up with your play and pause and all that. There's a little chat bubble, looks like a little cloud. Click on that and you can join in chat. You can ask us questions, ask Mike questions tonight. So, and please tell your friends, family, kids, grandkids, grandparents, strangers. Tell strangers about the show. We don't care. Tell everybody. But so we'll get into it because I'm really excited to get talking to Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Oh, good. I can't tell you how much I've been waiting for this. It's been really exciting to. We had to change the schedule last week. I'm not sure what happened. Luke was telling me because you were supposed to be on last week, and I'm like, oh man, well, we got to wait another week to talk to Mike about this. That's no good. But yeah, so I'm really excited to get you going. I don't know what's going on. I was trying to post a show on Facebook, and Facebook's a mess. I want to post a live link and. I'm just having trouble with Facebook here. Jeez. Everybody else have trouble with Facebook? Mike, do you have trouble with Facebook loading and stuff?
Yes, yeah, a lot lately. There's something going on.
Yeah, I've got a Cat 5 cable hooked up. I mean, I'm plugged right into my internet. I'm hardwired in, and it's being real screwy and stupid thing.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they've been hacked again.
If they didn't,
there's a lot of accounts that have been hacked.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I can't even get on Facebook to post the show here and get people going. Give me 1 second. Let me keep trying to work this. But so Mike, like I was saying before the show, I'd really like to kind of give an overview first before we get into the updates and stuff. You know, we might have people that didn't listen the first time, and I would highly recommend if you didn't listen to Mike on the show the first time and you updated us one time as well, go back and listen to it, especially the first one. We had John for quite a while and all that, and it was a great show. So I would highly recommend doing that. You know, maybe not today, but go out and check it out and catch that show. But before that, let's go ahead and can we give everybody a quick overview?
Yeah. Back in February last year, February the 7th, we'd had 3 weeks of heavy rain. So I went on to the only field that I could think of that I wouldn't get into too much of a mess metal detecting. Now, normally when I climb the gate to get into this field, the sheep scatter. But this day they wouldn't leave me alone. They were around my feet. I don't know whether they thought I had, food for them or what. I don't know. But they would not leave me alone. It got that bad. I thought they were going to step in my coil.
Wow.
Anyway, I started to detect, and I got about 60 feet, I'd say, into the field. And I got my first signal, only about 3 inches down. And it turned out to be the Celtic horse harness junction piece that sits on the breast of the horse. Bit that looks like the flower, if anybody's seen the pictures. But I was quite late in the afternoon, so I sent pictures to Julian Hart. It was still very muddy at the time. So myself at the time, I thought it was what you call a heraldic horse harness junction piece. But it turned out to be Celtic. And the words coming from everybody then was, that's basically the pinnacle of your career, Mike. You'll never find anything better than that.
Right.
I have to admit, I'd never found anything as good before and didn't think I would. The following day, then the 8th, it rained really heavy again. So I went out then the following day on the 9th, and I just followed the same route that I did, went into the field, and I found the rest. The first hole that I dug would be about 18 to 20 inches deep. I had the chariot ring and a bridle bit in there. Now, when everybody thinks of a chariot ring, it's basically what the reins went through on the chariots to control the horses. And up until then, the biggest chariot ring found in Europe was about the size of a tobacco tin. This is nearly twice the size. It's the biggest one found in Europe.
Wow.
And then about 4 feet away from that, I think it was about 1.2 meters, I had another lovely signal. And the ground conditions were horrendous. Although we'd had heavy rain, it took me half an hour to dig through the first 4 inches. It'd been a ploughed field in the past, and it was just all stony and rocky. You couldn't get your spade into the ground. And I started to dig, and I came across the horse brooch, the piece that looks like a mask. It looks like it's got horns and eye sockets. And that's actually a brooch, a horse brooch that was worn on the side of the horse. And it's only the second one ever found anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Wow. So, yeah, nice, very nice find. My only regret was when I first uncovered it in the hole, it was already fragmented because I suppose the plough and all have damaged it over the years. I wish I had actually taken a photo of it in the hole. And I just didn't think. I just recovered it, thought about it after, and I thought, damn.
Right. But that happens. You're so excited. I mean, I don't know many of us that would have the patience to, hold on, let me grab my camera,
And I did it on my own most of the time. And on this day, I was on my own, so there was nobody else there with a camera anyway. But the funny thing is, when I got the pieces out the ground, I took some pictures of them, and I sent them to Julian Hart. And because, like we both said, that's it, you never find anything better than, only 2 days before. And I emailed the pictures. Sorry, I sent him a messenger to Julian, and I didn't get a reply. So I phoned Julian, And I said, Julian, what do you think of these photos? And he went down, and he saw some pictures I'd sent to him a few days before. And he said, oh, there's nothing, nothing very much about them, much good about them, Mike. I said, no, scroll further down. And as he went down and he got to the pictures of the Celtic bits, well, I can't repeat the words that came out. It was amazing. It was, the best feeling you can imagine. It's not something you expect to find, especially in this part of the country.
Yep. Hey, Mike, I'm sorry. I've been busy. I've had your screen covered up. Can we stop the video so we can? I think we're getting a little bit of lag.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, we can. How do we do that?
On the front, underneath your picture, there should be like a line with a kind of looks like a camera, I guess, in between where you hang up and the mic. Do you have that? There we go. I think we'll get a little bit faster now. There's a little bit of lag. I forgot you were on there. I apologize.
It's my
good deal. Good deal. How's Julian doing?
He's recovering now. He's back in work. He's getting better every day. Still sounds a bit horsey because it's a bad throat and everything. But yeah, he's getting better every day. He's back at work and getting there.
Did I see that he was out detecting a little bit?
I'm not 100% sure. I believe he was. I think he did a little bit of beach detecting, I think.
Oh, wow. Good. I know a lot of people were concerned about him and really worried. What a wonderful guy. Just a wonderful guy. But, so, I can't imagine. And then, do you mind explaining a little bit the archaeologists' reactions and stuff and reaching out and how we got to that point, to the dig and stuff?
On the 7th, when I found it, when I found the first piece, after discussing it with Julian, I sent some pictures, some emails off to Mark Lodwick, he's our finds liaison officer for Cardiff Museum for this part of the county. And I didn't get a reply. So I sent another one the following day. I still didn't get a reply. And then on the 9th, when I found the other pieces, I sent pictures of those two as well. I still didn't get a reply. And I'm thinking, well, something's going on here. So I phoned the museum, and it turns out that Mark had actually been on annual leave. That's why he wasn't replying to me. He wasn't in the office. So by the 13th now, I discovered that he was on annual leave. And I phoned Cardiff Museum and I explained the situation, what I'd found. And I asked them who to speak to, and they put me through to Adam Glut. And I explained what I believed I'd found, Celtic Chieftain's Chariot burial. And, to be quite honest, I totally understand where he's coming from. Nobody believed me. He asked me to send him through, or to email him through some pictures, which is what I'd done. And he said, well, they're great finds and all, Mike, but I still don't think it's a burial. It's more likely a hoard. So this was February the 13th. My actual email read, hi, Mr. Gwilt, my name's Mike Smith from Pembrokeshire Prospectors. I've found a Celtic Chieftain's Chariot burial. Could you please email me or phone me on these two numbers? So anyway, he rang me back, and I emailed these pictures through. And as he said, it's more likely to be a hoard. And it took them till June the 20th last year before, to organise everything, the correct people down, get the machinery down and so on. Mm-hmm. And on the 5th day, I believe it was, they spent a week down from the 20th to the 28th was the last day. And it took them 5 days to get to the top of what you call the tyres of the chariot. Mm-hmm.
So it was on its side, correct?
No, it was upright.
Was it? Okay. For some reason, I thought it was on its side, but go ahead.
Now the average, you couldn't see the size of them at the time. You could see the tyres sort of thing. The average size of chariot tyres apparently are between 600 and 900 mil. across.
Okay.
When they actually got these out and took the measurements, they turned out to be 1,200 mil across, so twice the size.
Wow.
Unfortunately, you still had what you call the linchpins and all on the side of where the wheels were. But unfortunately, none of the wood has survived after 2,000 years in highly mineralized ground. It just decayed to nothing, basically. You could see where it had been, but nothing left of it. On top of where the body had been, you had an 800 to 900 millimeter long double-edged Celtic sword, long sword, what they call it. That was lying sort of diagonally across where the body had been. Again, the body completely disintegrated.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, but there was a stain where the body had been, so they sent samples of that off to the pathology, to have it tested. Turned out to be another 2 burials in the actual ring ditch as well. So as well as the chieftain in the actual chariot, you also had another 2 burials in the ring ditch around it. But again, no remains survived, because of the soil conditions. When they did the GPR, the ground penetrating radar, as they were digging this up, they continued to do ground penetrating radar on the rest of the field. To the west of that, now this ring ditch was 12 meters across. To the west of that, there was another ring ditch which was 21 meters across. And to the west of that again was another ring ditch, around about 24, 25 meters across. So getting bigger as they were going. And then going up the field as well, the gentleman that did the GPR came back and told me there was another 14.
Wow.
So it's like a graveyard.
Mike, real quick, I'm flying solo here. We're going to have questions pop up, and I'm going to pause you. Since I'm by myself, it's a little harder to keep up on everything. Kimberly Dubay wants to know, has the Chariot been put back together yet? I would love to see a pic. I'm guessing it's too fragile to put. They'll probably make a replica, I would guess. Do you know? Or is there enough of it to try to put back together?
No, there's not. There's very little of it survived, but they've got sufficient amount of it to make a replica of it, to make a copy of it, and that will be on display in the museum.
Okay, yeah.
Also, the long sword, as I said, it's 800 to 900 millimeters in length. They're going to have a blacksmith make an exact replica of that.
Right.
And all the other parts as well, apparently. The turret ring, the brooch, you got the horse bits, you got the bridle pieces and so on. They're going to have replicas of all that made. I've actually asked if I could have a copy of them.
Yeah. Now, this chariot was so rare that I'm sure they're learning so much about it, correct? I mean, there's probably pieces and parts and different things that I'm guessing they've never seen. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. Well, apparently it's a very late chariot, a lot later than previous ones that have been found. And it's the only one ever found in Western Britain. Up until now, the closest one found was in Yorkshire, which is about 300 mile away from where we are. Not only that as well, it's the only one that was ever found with a metal detector. The rest of them, so I can honestly say I'm the only person to find one with a metal detector, which, I'm truly amazed at. That's not something I expected to find.
No. How could you? How could you expect to find something like that? That's amazing. So I think that puts us pretty much back up to current, and we know, if for anybody who listened to the first show we did, that's what, as far as we got. And then they were scheduling a dig for this spring, correct?
Yes. March the 3rd, I believe it was. For 6 weeks, they came in with the sole intention of retrieving the chariot. which they successfully retrieved everything that was there. Obviously, a lot of stuff it had gone because of the soil conditions. But they also did extra ditches throughout the field as well, like you see on Time Team and things like that.
Yeah.
And they found a lot of Roman artifacts, as in pottery and stuff like that, all the way up to an 18th century clay pipe. So it goes back 2,000 years. But having said that, the prominent fort in the corner, that's been dated to around about 600 BC.
Wow.
And again, that it all comes under my discovery. So, yeah,
that's incredible.
It's for me, it's the best thing, obviously, I have ever found. I doubt I'll ever beat it, but I'm certainly going to keep trying to.
Right, absolutely. Well, you never know. I mean, you kind of hinted, I don't know if we're going to get into, I don't think we're getting into that, but you kind of hinted to me about some things pre-show, and how interesting is that? You never know. You just never know. And even if you don't find anything as valuable, I think I don't think it'll jade you or anything, do you?
No. Every time I go out, I mean, you never know what that next signal is going to be. Mm-hmm. I've had some Roman artifacts lately, again, in an area where there's no known Roman activity. But I know between me and my friend Steve Lewis, it's Steve's permission, it's not my permission, but we've had a number of Roman finds out of this field. So Crawford metal detectors now, thanks to Craig and Joe, come the beginning of August now, they're borrowing me a GPX 5000. So hopefully I'll have something, quite nice to show, in the near future.
Yeah, right. That would be incredible. Now, I wanted to reiterate a little bit, like, years ago, I found, I mean, I know it's nothing like what you guys find over there, but, people made the joke. It still had value. I found a valuable coin that was worth a few $1,000s. We're not talking huge amount of money. But people made the joke, well, you found that, you can't, you'll never top that. Nothing will be the same. People act like, well, your metal detecting career's over, or you're fun in metal detecting. No, matter of fact, that coin, what made it rare is it was the lowest mint in that coin. It was just like any of the other ones I'd found. It didn't do anything, so I don't know. A lot of people who think that, I wonder, well, why are you metal detecting? I do it for the history and the love of it. Hey, if I ever find something valuable, great. But, no, you're still at it, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, still doing it every day.
Right.
We've had some quite warm weather recently as well, and I'm still doing it. I can't ever see me stopping, to be honest with you. I mean, why would I? I'm out having the fresh air. I'm finding things which, have not been found, which have been lost for, sometimes a couple of 1,000 years,
Right.
sometimes a couple of years. But the point being is you never know what that next signal is going to be. Mm-hmm. And thank you to Minelab and Crawford's metal detectors. They gave me an Equinox 800 with a full set of coils. And that's an amazing, machine. It's absolutely brilliant. It's very deep. It doesn't suffer with EMI. It's very light, and it's very accurate.
Nice, great. That's awesome. Well, I forget, what were you using? Which detector were you? I thought you were using an 800 when you found it. No.
When I found it, believe it or not, I was using a Minelab 705 with a 15-inch root coil. Tech, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Machine. And the funny thing is, the signal I got was the same as digging lead. I honestly thought I was digging up a big piece of lead. And I nearly gave up because, as I said, the ground was so hard to get through the first 4 inches. It took me half an hour. The ground was soft. But there was quite a few signals in that field which I had, which before that which were the same sort of signal, and I couldn't get the spade in the ground, and I gave up. And I've just been thinking ever since, what was it?
Right. I tell people, especially new to the hobby, I feel like a lot of people leave a lot of signals behind, and they, that's iffy, or you're tired. And I tell people, don't ever go home and, half an hour, 2 hours later, it hits you. I wonder what was in that hole. It'll eat at you. Dig it. It's worth it so many times. I don't care if it's a pop can, then you learned something. You'll know that signal next time, more than likely. And that's my big thing when I detect now. I don't want to go home. It's been that way for years. I don't want to go home and then wonder if I should have dug that hole. That's silly. Dig it.
That's what I did in that field, and I've been left ever since thinking the same thing as you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed with the Equinox, a Roman coin, for argument's sake, typically comes in between 8 and 10. Now, normally you won't dig those signals because also a pewter button comes in those same numbers. Mm-hmm. My point being is you've got to dig. If you're in new land, I never dig anything below 6 for the simple reason being that every time I've dug it, I've never had anything good below 6. It's always been tin foil or something along that line. But anything 6 and up, I dig. And the simple reason being is you never know what history's in that field. And all the Roman coins, all the bronze Roman coins, and I should say, always come in between 8 and 10. So does a pewter button. I had a silver denarii here last month, and that came in at 13. Now, again, 13 is normally over here. It's normally a ring pull. So if I hadn't dug it, I'd have lost that silver denarii,
Right.
So, I totally agree with what you said. Dig every signal, especially if you're in new land, because you don't know that the soil in the new field is having on your targets. You don't know that.
Right. Exactly. I agree. I've often wondered as detectorists how many of us, especially the longer you've been in it, how many of us have walked over a super rare coin or artifact or even a hoard. How many have done that? I've got a friend here in the United States. He found one silver coin, then another one. Then it was almost like a trail. He was on a little trail. Of course, he didn't realize it at the moment. But then he came across a big signal. And, I wonder, I've never asked him, but I've wondered if you hadn't dug those silver coins leading up to it, would have you ever dug it? But he ended up, I think he found something like 60 some coins, and all but a few came from that third or fourth hole. And they, not nearly as impressive as what you guys find, of course, but the newest one was, I believe, 1830 something, 1832. That's very early for the part of the country he's in, and a heck of a find. So, I think as detectorists, just like that, if you'd have given up or if this is just lead and I'm not, you'd never found that.
No, I know.
And it only takes, in most cases, it's only a few minutes. I understand you were in really hard ground and struggling, but you never know. You can't. I think people rely too much on their VDIs and their numbers and everything else. Dig it. What better you got to do?
9 times out of 10, I go by sound.
Mm-hmm.
But I do check the VDI just to give myself a sort of a clue. But that's not very accurate. The VDI, the sound is more accurate depending on how mineralized the ground is that you're on. Or not. You never know. Every field, the conditions are different. If the ground's dry, if we've had a lot of dry weather, your machine won't penetrate as deep. So you're getting a small, iffy signal's the easiest way to describe it. Now you go in the same field on a wet, conditions, and that small iffy signal all of a sudden is a nice signal. It's a good signal. The wet amplifies, the penetrating depth of your machine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you've got to dig every signal. Once you get to know your machine 100%, well, I don't think you ever will, to be honest, get to know your machine.
Right.
But once you're quite confident with your machine, you know the sort of signals and the tones. For me, if the signal is, it's like I don't use pinpoint on the machine. What I tend to do, I'll turn 90 degrees to the target. And if I'm still getting the same tone, I'll dig it. Sometimes I'm digging foil because like a big piece of flat foil will give you, anything up to a 19, I find. But a silver coin can come in on 19.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's more than likely going to be junk, but there's always that possibility it's going to be, something worthwhile that you wish you had done.
Right. Absolutely. Neil said in chat real quick, I just want to say, it puts me off when it's really deep and I give up, but it plays on my mind for a long time afterwards. And I responded, exactly, Neil, effort is at least worth the peace of mind. And I think that sums it up really good. Whether it's junk or not, at least it's not on your mind at home. Like, well, I wonder what that signal was. It's worth it. So we're up to date. I mean, if you guys want to hear it in more detail and you didn't catch it the first time, go out to Spreaker, scroll down. Well, you can go anywhere. You can, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and I'm sure it's labeled Mike Smith, Celtic Chariot, I would guess, something like that. And you can find it and listen to the details. So we're pretty caught up. So this is the part I've been waiting for. What all transpired on this dig in March?
Well, basically, I mean, they had the machine come in to take off the first few inches of topsoil again. When they covered it back up in February, they put a tarpaulin over the top of it. Put loose soil over the top of that first, then tarpaulin on the top of that. Then they put turf back on top. So once they broke that, it was a painstaking. The ground was that hard. It was like you see on telly where they're using brushes and they're using small trowels and so on. It was like that all the way down. So it took them a good 4 weeks to get down to it. By which time, we thought there was a 3 meter metal mass underneath it initially. It turns out that because the wheels were bigger than, the normal size wheels, they would have given off that signal. There was no pots of gold or anything like that there. There was more bronze and stuff. But unfortunately, there was no precious metals. You had the Celtic longsword, which was lying on top of the body, and you had the wheels either side of that. You had the linchpins. And you had other pieces there. You had another 2 burials in the ring ditch as well. But again, because of the acidic conditions, they've gone. So I dare say the other 14 burials in the field are going to be exactly the same. There will be no remains left as such. The prominent fort in the corner of the field, which, all of this was previously unknown. It's just one of those situations. It's rewritten the history of this area. They now know that the Celts were there. I also had a Roman brooch in the field, Roman coin in the field. I had a tankard handle in the field, which has turned out, when I first dug it up, it looked a bit like a brooch. Like a fantail brooch is the easiest way to describe it, but it turns out that it was an Iron Age tankard handle. It's basically, it would have fitted on the side of a wooden, beaker type thing. That's what we'd call it. Okay. But the handle on the side of that. So there's Roman activity there as well. Up until that time, it was not known in the area. There are forts, if you go onto the old maps and stuff, there are forts not far away, but they were all thought to be Roman. Quite possibly, in my way of thinking now, they may have also been Celtic.
Right. So much has come out of this, hasn't there? I mean, I would guess the archaeologists have to be stepping back and thinking that too. Like, well, heck, we thought these were just Roman. Maybe they need a closer look and stuff. So, I remember our first show that if I remember correctly, you thought the archaeologists thought that there might be a hoard buried under that because that was pretty common. Did they get to that or get down to that level? I mean,
yeah, they got down to the level, but as I said, because the wheels were like the average size of the wheel, chariot wheel is 600 to 900 mil, and these wheels, two of them, obviously, 1200 mil. And because they were a little bit flattened because of the weight of the ground and everything, over the 2,000 years, that gave off basically the metal anomaly, which we thought 3 meter metal mass underneath it. Turned out that it was those wheels that were doing that. Because they were so much bigger than usual, if you know what I mean. They just weren't taken into consideration because we weren't expecting it.
Right. Because it was so much bigger than what they're used to seeing, correct?
Yes.
I gotcha. Well, that's still incredible. Was anything that they weren't suspecting found?
No, not really. Having said that, I mean, they didn't know what to expect because it's the first of its kind in Wales, and the museum itself, Cardiff Museum being in Wales, they'd never dealt with a chariot burial. So it was all new territory to them as well. They didn't know, what they were going to come up against, what they were going to find. They thought there would be grave goods as well, the same as I did. Unfortunately, that's not the way it was. There was still a lot of bronze, the sword, the wheels, the linchpins, other bronze parts and artifacts still found in the ground there as well. I'd like to give a big thank you to Andrew Rolfe and Steve Lewis for donating their time this time round. First time round, John Stoner and James Longman as well. They came down from Yorkshire. Sheffield. Completely donated their time free. And they helped out as well, metal detecting in the field, hopefully finding more artifacts. I would also like to say as well, on a negative side, it's put, how can you explain? The British Museum held a big media event on the 26th of last month. They only phoned the farmer the night before. Now, obviously, being a farmer, you need, quite a bit of notice. You can't just, drop everything at the last minute and go up to this media event, which was 110 mile away. The first I knew about it, a friend of mine on Facebook sent me a link to the BBC website. They didn't even phone me. They didn't notify me. I wasn't invited. They made out that they didn't have my phone number, but they phoned me that.
Right.
They phoned me on my phone number that they didn't have. To tell me that they didn't phone me because they didn't have my phone number, which don't make any sense.
Right.
I would have loved to have been there, obviously. So with the landowner, but to be honest, I don't think we were wanted there. It's the way if they'd wanted us there, they could have quite easily. They had my email address, they had my home phone number, they had my mobile number, and it was only 2 weeks before that. The head curator in charge of the dig, on the 13th of last month, had actually phoned me on the number that he didn't have as well.
Right.
And obviously, that was only 13 days before the actual event. He must have known about it then. They must have forward planned it.
Right. That's ridiculous. Absolutely absurd. Now, I'm sure everybody out there that knows this just thinks it's amazing and incredible. And how fortunate you are to be involved in this. I am sure that there's a lot of negative things that a lot of issues have arose from making such an amazing discovery.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing some more of those with us?
No, I don't. I don't mind at all.
Good.
Good. As any other metal detectorists here in the UK know, when you find any Roman artifacts, anything along those lines, you either go along to your flow, your finance liaison officer for your area. Ours from Cardiff Museum here is a fellow called Mark Ludwig. He was unavailable at the time. So a few of the items that I sent in along with these Celtic Chariot finds, when they went through the coroner, the Roman brooch, Roman coin, tankard handle, and another couple of bits, it was decided that they were not treasure. Now, what normally happens when you record an item, if it's not treasure, you get it back. Mm-hmm. And then it's down for you and the farmer to come to an agreement as to, who gets it or, how much he wants for, his half of the item. Unfortunately, the head curator has decided that he doesn't want to return these items, and he's going to ask the farmer if he will donate them to the museum. Now, that is not what happens. That is not, as any metal detectorist will tell you. And it's put me in a situation now where if I find anything, don't get me wrong, if it's treasure, declare it, record it. You've got to. There's no other way around it. Where you find an item that's not treasure, it's basically just an agreement that you have with a museum that you will record this item, and it helps them build up a picture of the area that you're in. Mm-hmm. But the way I'm looking at it now, when you record an item, you give them the coordinates to the land, the name of the farm and the landowner. What's to stop them contacting the landowner now and saying, we want this piece? Now, if it's not treasure, they're supposed to return it to the finder. Mm-hmm. But they've decided they don't want to do that. And I'm sorry, some of you may not agree with me. I don't know. But there's no big value on this little Roman brooch, if you know what I mean. It's a little small enameled Roman brooch. The coin is basically blank, but it's a Cistercian coin, big coin. The tankard handle, there's no value in them. But where the part of the country that I live in, Roman brooches and all are so hard to come by. I'm never going to get the chariot parts back. Obviously, they are treasure. I would have liked to have kept these few little items to remind me of the find of my lifetime. Right. But that doesn't seem that, it seems that they're going to keep them, and there's nothing I can do to stop them.
So the farmer did donate them?
He hasn't donated them yet, because even if the farmer does donate them, they've got to then give me half the value. But to be honest with you, you're talking of only about £8 for something like, the Roman brooch. There's no real value in it. Mm-hmm. But that's not the point, as far as I'm concerned.
No,
if it's worth £1,000, if it's worth, £1, it's the fact that usually, as a finder, if you record an item that's not treasure, you get it back. That's it. That's what normally happens. Mm-hmm. In this instance, it's not going to happen. So it's left me in a predicament where I'm reluctant to record anything with the museum now. I'm not saying I won't in the future, but it's left me in a position now. If I do, what's to stop them contacting the landowner and say, we want this?
Which is absurd, which is absolutely absurd. How does the guy who found these, that if these would have never been found by you, it might take how are they have the right to cut you out and treat you so disrespectfully? I don't know if you're in chat, but everybody is on your side. Everybody right now is saying, pretty much it's wrong, except Scott. Scott's just wanting to know if you want him to send Guido over to the leg breaker over to visit him. That's what he said. So, no, everybody is supporting you, and I totally agree with you. I think if it's not treasure, if it's not, then you should get it back. You should have an opportunity, and that's not fair. Them not letting you know about that event, how disrespectful and rude, is just beyond me. So, one thing I'm curious about that really, really shocked me, here in the United States, we do, I'm sure you guys have seen it too. We will have people that, at least the majority of the people, detectors and stuff, will call it fake. Whether they call it, there are people faking fines and stuff. But if I'm not mistaken, either I saw or I heard where somebody was claiming that you faked this. Was that correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
I know. I had one person, I won't give his name out because it's not the way I am, sort of thing. But I had one person, he was insinuating this about Treasure Hunting magazine as well. He said, his exact words were, fake finds from a fake person in a fake magazine. And
you got to...
Julian knows who I'm on about because Julian's had dealings with him in the past. But the amount of people, I mean, how can you fake something like that? And where are you going to find something like that and plant it? And why would you?
Right. How ridiculous. Like, what's he think? You went out there and you found a chariot somewhere else and buried it? I don't even understand. I mean, this is, when you find a nickel, the old V nickels here in the United States and in the Buffalo nickels, they get corrosion on them. When you find one and it's shiny, that throws a red flag. But who am I to even question it and call it out? I've found hundreds of them, and never have I found one that comes out of the ground shiny and pretty. But how in the hell does anybody expect that you faked a chariot find? I mean, I can't even wrap my head around what an idiot this person must be.
To be honest, a lot of it is jealousy. A lot of it was, to put it bluntly, shit stirring. They had a bit of a beef with somebody else who I'm friends with, if you know what I'm saying. And they had a grudge against them, and it was just snide comments. And then other people were joining in. I mean, I will say, obviously, when I first found it, it was that muddy. I wasn't 100% sure whether it was a heraldic horse harness junction piece or a Celtic junction piece or even a Roman junction piece. It was that muddy, I didn't know. It was only talking with Julian Hart, who got a lot more knowledge than me, and in these fields, that we really discovered what it was. I mean, if it was something that I was finding on a regular basis type thing, the Celtic finds, then fair enough.
Right, right.
Yeah, so how do they expect you to know what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, that just, I mean, has there been any more questions about it, about the authenticity now? I mean, it has to be put to rest, correct?
No, it's all genuine. It's a previously unknown prominent fort in the corner of the field.
Oh, yeah, no. I totally get that. What I'm saying, is there still any of these idiots calling you out and saying it's fake?
No, not that.
That's had to have stopped, right, after the archaeology dig. And I mean, my goodness, how stupid of them. I mean, how far did they think they were going to get trashing your name when archaeologists are going to come dig the site? I mean, I don't know.
And another side of this that's annoyed me as well, as I said earlier, my first email to the head archaeologist at Cardiff Museum was, "Hi, Mr. Gwilt, this is Mike Smith from Pembrokeshire Prospectors. I found a chieftain chariot burial." And as you would expect, they had a bit of a giggle about it, which I don't blame them.
Right.
It's not something you hear of in this part of the country, but I told them it was there. I knew it was there after discussions with Julian and another couple of friends of mine. The finds could only be a chariot burial. That's all it could have been. So I told them what was there. Part of this media event they had, they said that I found the initial bronze pieces and stuff like that, but they found the chariot. No, they did not.
Right.
They've insinuated it in their camera interview with the BBC. I'm quite happy to show anybody a copy of the email on the 13th of February last year I sent, and it clearly says in there that I found the Celtic chieftain's chariot burial. All they have to do was dig down to it. That's all. It was there. I told them it was there.
Right. And and then they go and act like you guys have such a better relationship with your archaeologist over there than we do here in the United States. I would say the majority of us think we're just raping and pillaging here. They really are against us for the most part. Although it has come a little bit. It has come along a tiny, tiny bit here. But, I've always thought you guys had a much better relationship. And you still do, but, how pompous. Do they think that you're never going? And maybe you won't. I don't know. If it were me, I would. This is a lie, and here I got the emails to prove it.
Greenlight Publications have asked me to write a book about this. I started metal detecting in 1977 when I was 12. So they've asked me, to write a book, and all this is going to be in this book. The email, it'll actually be a copy of the email in there, and they can deny it if they like, but I can show it. I can show the replies and everything. In fact, one of the archaeologists came up to me in June last year when they spent a week down here digging, and they got to the top of the chariot wheels. I won't give his name, but he constantly patted me on the back and he said, "Fair play, Mike." He said, "We don't like to be wrong," he said, "but you have proved us wrong. Here's the chariot."
Right.
Which, I respected him for that. He admitted that he was wrong. Well, not he was wrong sort of thing, but that they were wrong.
Yes.
And then I was right sort of thing. It was never, for me, it was never, I'm right, you're wrong anyway. But it was
but give credit where credit's due.
Yes.
And they're playing down your significant part in all of this. And that's not fair. I'm sorry. That's just not fair. This would still be in the ground, and they would have no clue about it if it wasn't for you. How dare they? In my mind, I think that's completely wrong.
If I'd been at the media event last week, the minute they'd have said on camera that they had discovered the chariot and all, I'd have stood up anyway and said, "No, you did not."
Right.
And I could have showed the email to the camera crew there and then.
Right.
On my phone. That's obviously why I wasn't invited. They didn't want me there.
Exactly. So, are you going to make that right? Do you have plans, or do you want to not discuss that? Or,
well, to be honest, there's not a lot I can do about that and that side of it. That's done now. The media event's been held. It's not, there's nothing really that I can do. Well, not that I'm aware of. If anybody else is aware of something that I can do, then please get in touch and let me know. But the way that they how can you explain? It's difficult. For the first few months, I was on such a high with having found what I'd found and knowing that it was the only one of its kind and the only one ever found by a metal detectorist. But the way that they have dealt with this, I lost the permission on the farmland up until last week. I've now got it back. The archaeologist denied having asked the farmer not to allow me on his land. But I spoke to the farmer, I spoke to his daughter, and they both said the same thing. They had been asked by the archaeologists not to allow me on the land. So I phoned all the archaeologists that I knew that were there. I phoned them one at a time, and I asked them straight out. I said, look, I've got to ask you this. I want an honest answer. Have you asked them not to allow me in? on the land, and they all denied it.
Right.
Not last week, the week before was the last time I phoned. And I said, look, I'm asking you again because I've spoken to one of the farm workers and I've spoken to some of the family, and they're adamant you have asked them not to let me on the land. And the next I knew, then a couple of days later, I'm allowed back on there. So it's a little bit convenient, that.
Right,
But
right.
not a question. I wouldn't go in there anyway because I wouldn't want people following me.
Yeah.
But the rest of the land now, I've got access to again now.
Exactly. Well, that's good. That's a positive, at least.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. So what's next?
Well, now it's all at the museum. It's under conservation. It actually went through the TVC today, the Treasure Valuation Committee. I don't know what the outcome of that is yet. But that's only the first part. The actual chariot, the linchpins, the sword, none of that have actually gone through the coroner yet. So that can't go to the TVC yet. So, that's just one of those, just got to wait and see.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Right. I bet that is nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking, yes. Obviously, I won't go into figures and stuff like that. But I had a letter the other day saying about what they valued it at. Some of the pieces at, I should say. And one of the pieces alone on Timeline Auctions last year, well, two, I should say, sold for quite a few thousand more than they offered me. They offered me for quite a few of the pieces this amount of money, and one of the pieces at Timeline Auction fetched more than that on its own.
Boy, they're trying to do you dirty, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. But everybody knows over here that's the way it works. You're never going to get the full market value, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
They should they should be a lot closer to it than they do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, do you have an attorney or anything that you've had to get to deal with this, or?
No, not at the moment. No.
Okay.
At the moment, it's all being done. I'm being kept in the loop now, where I'm getting letters from the TVC, I'm getting letters from the museum, and so on and so forth. If at any time it does change again, then yes, I will do. I'll get a solicitor involved. I honestly don't know if that will do any good. For me, this is the first. I've never found
Right.
drove over here.
Mm-hmm.
Even after 42 years, the part of the country that I live in, it's had a lot less activity than other parts of the country, for argument's sake, with the cities and so on. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot less Celtic and Roman activity in the area that we knew of. Now we know it's here. Yeah, I found the first Celtic Chariot, but it's not going to be the last, I don't think, anyway.
Right.
You're going to have people looking.
Right. Hey, Mike, we have a question, and I think why didn't the farmer ignore their request to not let you search the land? And I am guessing probably scared of going against the archaeologist would be my guess.
I think it's partly that, but the way the archaeologists worded it, I don't think the landowner was aware that it's only a request sort of thing. They have no actual power to stop you. They can ask,
mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's the landowner's decision. Obviously, you cannot go on the scheduled area. Where a lot of people make a mistake too, when they schedule a field, for argument's sake, say if you've been ploughing that field, for the last 5-10 years, and somebody goes in there and they find something of, like a national treasure sort of thing. They schedule a field, myself included. You think, well, that's it now. You can't dig on there anymore. You can't plough on there anymore. It doesn't actually do that. If you've been ploughing that field for the last 10 years, you can continue to do so. But if you had been ploughing the field, but you hadn't done for a number of years, you can't plough it anymore. Basically, you can continue to do what you've been doing, but you can't alter any of what you've been doing. You couldn't go in that field for everything to dig a well.
Right.
You can't do that. But you can continue what you've been doing.
Yeah, I'm sure the farmer can't go in and dig 4 foot deep and start putting new tile in the field and stuff like that.
Oh.
So, yeah, I get what you're saying. So he's still, at least he's allowed to still farm it and stuff. And now Scotty B said, National England have the final say on land, even if landowners allow you to detect. If they say no detecting, then you have to stop, as they will stop paying the landowners. I don't know anything about what's going on over in England, but maybe that has something to do with it.
No, it's got nothing to do with that over here.
Okay.
The only land that the archaeologists can ask you they can, it's legal basically. If it's been scheduled, you can't go on there, you can't dig. Cadw actually have the say on who can, who can't. Even the archaeologists at British Museum have to apply for permission to Cadw to actually go on land that's been protected, that's been scheduled. Mm-hmm. Even the archaeologists cannot dig on there if they don't have permission. But any other fields that's not scheduled, that's not had some sort of protection order put on it, as long as a landowner gives you permission, then there's nothing anybody else can do to stop you.
Okay. Well, Scotty B just said, still happens to me on a bit of land. AV got National England, stopped his payment and stopped us detecting. It was not protected. Had to phone and sort it all. I'm not quite sure what all that is, but I don't know.
I don't know either, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You've got, if you go on Cadw's website, you've got, if you type in monuments of Wales on Cadw, monuments of Wales maps, it'll come up with Cadw's. And any protected scheduled land will have like a red ring around it. A listed building, as you call it, a protected building will be in blue. And then you got another one which is in green. That's of interest, if you know what I mean, land of interest, where, for argument's sake, could be fossils or stuff like that in there. Mm-hmm. You can't go on any of them. So my advice, basically, if you go on their website, go onto that map where you can see the scheduled areas with, the red rings and so on, as I'm saying, save that to your phone home screen. So if ever you get a new permission, all you're going to do is go on that, and you can see if it's scheduled, and then, walk away. Don't dig it. It's the wrong thing to do, if you know what I'm saying. It's there for a reason, to protect it.
Absolutely.
But for argument's sake, 100 yards outside that scheduled area, you can detect, providing you have permission from the landowner. Right. You can detect. And personally, that's what I would do. I go on that map quite regular when I get a new permission, and as long as there's no schedule in there, I'll go on there, and hopefully, find something nice.
Right. Now, something I don't know. It's been quite a while since we had you on, but one question I wanted to ask. Again, I think I remember asking you, but I don't think I remember the answer. You when you were hunting this, you ended up in that field that day. Oh, geez, what was it? Why did you end up? You didn't want to be in that field. Why didn't you want to be in that field?
Because it was so hard to dig. The first 4 inches of that ground, you basically need a pickaxe.
Gotcha.
We had 3 weeks of really bad, rain, heavy rain. And because of that, this was the only field I could really go in that I did, I knew I could go in without getting into too much of a mess.
Okay.
And if it hadn't been for that, I probably wouldn't have. So I'm glad I did.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Mike, I love this story. I love having you on and talking about this. Do you have any kind of timeline of when everything will be, have they given you any kind of timeline?
No, from what I believe, once they make you an offer, if you accept the offer, it's about 18 months after that before you get any money anyway. If you reject the offer, then it's got to go back for review. And then you get another offer. It can go the opposite way. Sometimes it can be a lower offer. But if it comes back then and you accept that offer, then it's still 18 months, I believe, to 2 years anyway before you actually get the money. I don't know why it takes that long. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, once they've made you an offer, if you're happy with it, you've accepted it. I don't see why you shouldn't be paid sort of, relative.
Right. Like,
I don't know why it is.
yeah, that seems a little bit excessive to me.
They just changed the Treasure Act over here now, and the intention of part of the new Treasure Act now, from the minute you declare a find of that's classed as treasure, from the minute you record it to the minute you get paid for it, 3 months.
Oh, really?
Yes, I don't know if that will actually work. I don't know. But that's only come into force in April. So obviously this chariot and everything anyway was found last February, so that won't be included in that. There's actually cases going on in the UK at the moment where it's 8 years down the line and people still haven't been paid.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's absurd. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you need to go out there and find another chariot so you can get paid a little quicker next time.
Yeah. But it's not the archaeologist's fault, if you understand what I'm saying. That's some sort of legal red tape, whatever. It's not their fault. They're so overworked. They haven't got enough hours, basically. They've got too much work for the amount of people that they've got working for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Something you brought up. What is it? Time Team.
Yes. Yeah.
That does the show. They go out there for 3 days. I'll tell you something that really surprised me. It's funny you mentioned that because I've been watching Time Team and Time Team. I think it's Time Team America.
Yeah.
That show is even here in the United States, and I've been watching it when the kids go to sleep at night and stuff. I've been looking for something to watch, kind of wind down, quiet. And I've been watching it, and I just saw a dig. Matter of fact, I just watched an episode last night, and they were doing this dig, and they actually had they had a big lift out there to look at the ground from above. And,
yes.
I had to question that because I understand they're under, they have to watch their budget and everything else. But my God, you can get a DJI Phantom 4 for $700 refurbished from the factory.
Yeah.
How much was it to rent that big lift? Why aren't they taking a drone up and looking at that? Why aren't they? This is a TV show. I understand it's PBS and it's not like they have huge funding. Why aren't they reaching out to one of these companies that makes LiDAR? These drones with LiDAR equipped. Hey, we're doing a TV show. I would just think that they could do better.
Yes, they could do better.
As I'm watching this show, I'm just thinking, wow, I'm really surprised here that they're not doing this or that or.
Well, when you think about the height that lift can go, and then you think of the height that the drone can go, especially in really dry conditions as well. They recently had surveys done over here with planes flying over with LiDAR. And it didn't cover the part of Wales that I'm in because it's still all white when you try and look at it. But the amount of villages, medieval villages, Roman, Iron Age stuff that they could see from the LiDAR maps on those aircraft that you can't see on the ground. And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't see that from a lift either. But those drones, when they're high up, I've seen a friend of mine, he sent me a video of some land near him, and you could actually see where there'd been round houses and stuff, which had showed in extreme dry conditions. Now, when you're on the ground, you couldn't see it.
Right.
But from that height, you could.
Yes. Yeah, I have a Phantom 3. I've got a friend who has a Phantom 4. And you can literally fly out into a field. A lot of our plowed fields and stuff, what we're looking for is house sites that are gone out in the middle of a farm field. And you can, it has, like his Phantom 4, I think, has a 2.5 mile, it can go out like 2.5 miles. We can stand in a field, fly out, we can fly above, look for any high spots, anything that looks of interest, fly out to it, drop down several feet above it, and scan it. And the first time he ever showed me that, we watched a worm crawl across a little rock that in so much detail, it was unbelievable. If you knew your rocks, this rock the size of a quarter, you'd know what kind of rock it was. Yeah. It was incredible. So we look for pottery and bricks and glass and all that by doing that. And, it just surprised me. I haven't even seen a drone on that show, and it's,
they did actually use one on the dig. On the Chariot dig, they did use one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They had some, they've also had a documentary made about this, which is going to be on BBC Two and S4C in November, I believe. That might have changed slightly. I'm not sure, but at the time they said it would be aired on TV in November.
In November, the documentary on this?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, people were asking earlier, and I meant to ask, and I forgot.
And they also used a drone for part of that as well.
That is really cool. Yeah, looking forward. Now, who's doing that documentary? Do you know? Have you been a part of it?
And yeah, I've been interviewed on the documentary 3 or 4 times, I believe.
Good.
So I'm assuming I'll be in the documentary. But by the time they've edited it, I might not be. I don't know.
Right. Who knows?
Yeah.
Interesting. Can't wait to see. I wonder now, where's that airing?
It'll be on BBC Two and S4C.
Hopefully I can find it here in the United States.
Well, the easiest way to do that when it comes on, if it's on, I'll put my phone on a tripod and record it for you.
Oh, my goodness. I'd love that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love that, Mike.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I'm so excited. So so you're kind of at a standpoint then concerning this.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
just
a waiting game. Yeah.
They can't display anything at the museum or anything, mainly because they haven't purchased it yet anyway. But depending on the valuation committee anyway, if the museum can't afford it, then somebody else will, purchase it. Mm-hmm. The only thing that, I personally, I would want it in, the Welsh Museum. It's found in Wales.
Right.
It should be displayed here because this is where it was found.
Absolutely. I agree. Real quick, let me say, we got a couple people talking in chat about they missed the first half of the show. Once the show is over, it'll be on iTunes, iHeartRadio. You can go out to Spreaker, Spreaker.com, Spreaker. You can listen to it from there. You can download it. So if you want to listen to it on drive or while you're at work, there's a lot of ways you can catch the show. And I apologize to you guys that had trouble getting in and didn't catch the beginning of the show, but you can definitely go back and listen to it from multiple different places. So no worries.
The Spreaker app from the Google App Store. Is that the same app?
Yes.
So will that actually be on there?
Yes, it'll be on there. It'll be on the Spreaker website. It'll be on iTunes, iHeartRadio. There's even affiliates that I'm not sure. Matter of fact, I did a month or so ago. I did a research. I did a search, just a Google search on the All Metal Mode podcast and All Metal Mode UK, and I was shocked at all the different places it came up, places that I wasn't even aware of. So, I mean, there's just a number of places you can download the show, listen to it, that kind of thing. So, yeah. And again, some of you, if you didn't catch the first show, you can go back and find it. I mean, we have all the shows for All Metal Mode UK and All Metal Mode since the very beginning. And, I mean, I don't even know how many shows there are, but there's just hours and hours of shows. And so you can go out there and catch them anywhere. There's so many places you can get them.
Absolutely, it's brilliant. I like listening to it. So.
Oh, we appreciate that, Mike. Is there anything else you wanted to add or talk about, discuss?
No, that's it.
We good? Okay. Man, what an update! I'm so glad. Were you there during the dig?
I was, yes, but again, they made it quite clear on certain days when the film crew and all was going to be there, when the local college students and all were going to be there. They made it quite clear they didn't want me to go there, but I went there anyway.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, exactly. Why would they do that? I couldn't understand it myself.
Did you ask them? Did you ask anybody?
Well, it wasn't worth creating a situation at the time, if you know what I mean. The cameras and everything was there. But actually came out and said, you don't need to be here till next Friday then, do you, Mike? And this was like Tuesday or something, if you know what I mean. So I made a point of going every day then.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
I would too. Absolutely. I hope it all works out. I hope you don't get screwed around on this. Do you think you'll eventually write a book?
Yes, that is the intention. I'll have to have some help. To be honest with you, I haven't written so much as an essay since I was in school. You know, I mean, 39 years ago. So I will have to have some help with that. Mm-hmm. You know, I like to read a book, but as to writing a book, that's totally different. I can talk to people and putting it down on paper.
Right.
It's a little
different. I'm actually writing my second book, I guess. So I'm almost finished up with it. It's not hard. You know, I would say the biggest thing for me is, get you, I forget what they call it. I call it a timeline. You know, what I'm going to want to talk about first, and then I break it down into, you know, very specifics, and then, you know, that's a chapter, next chapter, and then I just, you know, I'll think about it in my head. Where do I want this to go? What do I want to put out there? I mean, it really starts out just a blank piece of paper and words and groups of words grouped together, and then it goes to, even when I write a big article, I do this, and then it'll go to, you know, now with the book, I start throwing some of those same things together that I want to talk about, and okay, this needs to be in the same chapter, and then I'll start breaking it down, and you know, by the time I got to where I started writing, Mike, it just came right out, because I could go back, okay, here's where I want to start. Now, don't forget this. I want to say this. I want to talk. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it really, in my opinion, and everybody has their own writing skills, and maybe this wouldn't work for you, but I probably had a significant significantly more time in getting to my first word on a page than I have writing the whole book. So, but by the time I got there, all the time thinking about in my head what I want to do, there were notes on my phone, on my computer, on loose pieces of paper. And then I just brought it all together, and until I had it exactly, okay, here's chapter 1. I want to talk about this first, then this, and then, you know what I mean? And, then there were notes attached to those and stuff of other small things I didn't want to forget. And it'll come, I think if you do that, if that works for you, it'll come together really quick.
What I done throughout the dig every day, I took down what was found and so on, and so forth, and what, what was going on, who was there, sort of thing to jog my memory when I come to doing it. Mm-hmm. The only thing I was really, and I've got to say it, really annoyed at, they made me sign a non-disclosure. Now, the non-disclosure basically said I wasn't allowed to take any photos, I wasn't allowed to publish anything. Initially, that was meant to be until after the documentary was aired in November. Now, we come to an agreement that if I agreed to sign the non-disclosure, they would give me 50 photos for myself. Now, I told them at the time that I'd been asked to write a book about this, and they never mentioned anything. Obviously, they knew at the time. Now, they're still going to give me these 50 photos, but they've actually said if I want to use any of those photos in the book, I've got to pay them for it.
Huh.
Now, I wasn't allowed to take photos. Basically, they told me if I didn't sign the non-disclosure, I would not be allowed to attend the dig.
Huh.
At no time did they mention that I would not be allowed to use the photos for my book. And now they're saying, yeah, I'd be able to use them, but I'll have to pay them for the right to do so.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, it is. If I'd been allowed to take my own, I wouldn't need their photos.
Right. Exactly. Now, who was this that made you? Was this the production company, or was this the network, the production company, or was this the archaeologist?
The archaeologist.
Ah.
Now, he made out that it was because of the production company wanting exclusive rights to the photos and stuff like that, which you can understand on that side.
Yeah.
And he said that, basically that the production would be out, it would be aired in November on BBC Two and S4C. And that after this, then I would receive the photos. And basically, that was my photos. Now, they've already broken this on the 26th of the last month, they've done this already. So if they're saying that the production company wanted exclusive rights to this, which wouldn't be aired until November, they've already now used these photos that the production company had exclusive rights to. So, what happens there?
Well, Mike, not all is lost because, they say that the pen is mightier than the sword, and I believe that in some cases. You're writing a book, and
yeah.
I think my thing would be if you guys want me to pay you for these, I'm not going to do that, and here's why. But I'll tell you what, I can definitely, you guys can be painted one of two ways in this book. How do you want to be painted?
Yeah.
Exactly. I think, you do have a leg to stand on, and you do have ways to work with them and let them see your point. Whether it'll work or not, who knows? But you could certainly, write your story, and that can be positive or negative for the archaeologist.
Yeah, it's going to be, as far as I'm concerned, named and shamed in this book. If they don't play fair by me, I won't play fair by them.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I agree. I think that's great.
I want them to be fair, and if they are, fair enough. We'll leave it there. If they don't, then it'll all be in the book, and that'll be a book for everybody to read.
I I'm sure the book will be about the find, and it should be. But I hope you find a way to include a cautionary story in there, cautionary tale to anyone who might find something of significance there, and how, what to be leery of and careful of and what to watch for. I think, that's an important part as well for us detectorists. I think the focus definitely needs to be on the find and your involvement in that. But it would be great to see that. I feel bad what you've had to go through. It's not fair. It's not right, and I'd hate to see anybody else have to go through that. It sounds like they've almost bullied you in ways.
They have tried to.
Yeah, and how ridiculous.
I mean, for me, it's like the day that they uncovered the sword. I wanted to get my phone out of my pocket and take a photo of it. I wasn't allowed. I was told if I took any photos or was seen taking any photos, if I received a phone call, I had to go to the boundary of the field, so that they knew that I wouldn't be able to photograph anything, you know what I'm saying? But I was told that if I was seen taking any photos, I'd have been escorted off the land.
You found this, and this is how they treat you. I don't know. I find that absurd. I mean, what a shame. Just what a shame. But
it's not. At the end of the day, without us detectorists, there'd be a lot less stuff in the museums.
Right.
The archaeologists very rarely go out and find something like this. The only chariot has been found in Britain. One was found by Persimmon Homes, who were building houses, and they discovered it where they were doing foundations. Another one was found in a reservoir where they drained a reservoir, and there was a chariot actually standing up in the bottom of the reservoir.
Oh, wow.
This is the only one ever found by a metal detectorist, but all the other finds that metal detectorists find and we record, and that gets declared treasure. If it wasn't for us, 80% of what's in the museums wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
A lot of it is put away in some drawers somewhere, never to be seen again.
Mm-hmm. We had a while back, I had Daryl Miklos on. He was on both the U.S. and U.K. show, and he was the guy from Cooper's Treasure on the Discovery Channel. He's a shipwreck hunter, and very nice guy. And what he said, I wasn't word for word. Don't. I'm quoting him the best I can here, but he said these academia, they want it all to themselves. They want to keep it to. They go out and they get these big, this money, these grants to go do these digs and go do all this, and then they write these papers that only other academia is going to read. It doesn't even get shared with the public, and they want to keep that all to themselves and write. And he said it's ridiculous. And I agree. And you know what? Matter of fact, as I'm saying that, I am not even positive that was him that told me that, but I'm pretty sure he said that on air, but it could have been somebody else. Oh, geez, now I feel like a big dummy. But that was a very true statement. Whoever said that, it's true. They want to keep it to themselves. They want to take all the glory. Now, I think it is a little more open over there, but here that's, we don't hear about a lot of these digs and stuff. It's nobody talks about it, and they write papers that get seen, on the college campuses and shared amongst other academia, and we don't even see or hear about it. And it's the grant money that's used over here is ridiculous. We could go on to about this forever, Mike, and we won't keep you. I think now is a good time to end the show. I think we covered it, and I really appreciate it. Please keep in touch with us. We'd love to have you on again and again anytime. We can talk about other things too. I'd love to have you on talking about your 800. If you get, we could get into more detail when you're ready and how you're liking it and how it's working for you, and maybe give some ideas on how you run it and set it up. Would love to have you on after you get the GPX 5000, after you borrow that for a while. So yeah, please keep in touch, keep us updated, and let's get you back on.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'd like that.
Mike, thank you. We appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time to keep us updated and coming back on. Thank you, sir, and have a good evening.
And you, Mike. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, good night. Well, there you have it, guys. What a great guy. Poor Mike. I hope it all works out. Jeez. Kind of makes me sad. And that isn't where I thought the show was going to go, but you never know. And but for those that listened, a little cautionary tale there, but it'll still work out for him. It'll work out. Don't forget Facebook, North of the Tyne Detecting, Addicted to Bleeps, Metal Detecting, UK Dirt Fishing, and All Metal Mode Podcast UK. YouTube, Hunters Kimmy and Cloudhopper Scott. I love watching those guys. Addicted to Bleeps, Shilling King Metal Detecting, UK, TC Detects, Grim Bleepers, South Coast Detecting. If you're looking for any metal detectors, equipment, check out LP Metal Detecting. That's www.leisure-promotions-co.uk. Boy, that was tough to get out for some reason tonight. I don't know why. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the show, and come back next week. I'm not sure who we have on. I'll have to check it, but I'm sure we'll have another great show lined up for you next Thursday. See y'all. Good night.
The Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine acts as a hub for information, offering articles from archaeologists, detectorists and other specialists throughout the genre, featuring many links, event info and news articles associated to archaeology and metal detecting. We also offer professional review services and promotion for books, resources, videos, documentaries, gadgets, equipment and much, much more. The magazine is run by the archaeological and metal detecting community for the archaeological and metal detecting community. So come visit us at archmdmag.com, that's archmdmag.com, and check out information from our media section with all the latest content, news from the Archaeology channel, podcast and the YouTube channels that feature the now legendary Digger Dawn, the Man with the Hat and Archeo Duck, just to name a few. If you would like to offer an article, link or inquire about other services, then pay us a visit at archmdmag.com and drop us a line.